Hi, I'm Serena Patel and I am the author of Anisha Accidental Detective, and this is my Reading Zone book club video. So Anisha is 10 years old and she loves reading, and she would really rather be doing that than anything else. But unfortunately for Anisha, she quite often finds herself in situations where there is a mystery to solve and she is the only person who can solve it. So in the first book, she is quite happily reading her book, but her auntie Bindi is getting married the very next day, and Nish can't think of anything worse actually than having to go to a wedding and be a bridesmaid. But her auntie Bindi is super excited and a little bit stressed out about this wedding. And then a note comes through the door which says that the groom, Uncle Tony, has been kidnapped and won't be returned unless the wedding is cancelled. And Anisha doesn't show this note to the grown-ups. She actually goes to her best friend Milo, and together they decide that they're going to investigate and try to save the day. And a wedding is a really big event, so there are a lot of family members at the house and everyone is behaving really suspiciously. So they have to narrow it down and follow a few of them to find out what's going on. Will they get everyone to the wedding on time? And in the second book, School's Cancelled, Anisha and Milo, along with their new friend Govi, are taking part in the National Schools Science Fair. And they've got a great experiment and they're practicing 1 week before the fair. And disaster strikes again. What are the chances? And they accidentally flood the school with foam, which of course they get in a lot of trouble for. And they are told they can't compete in the National School Science Fair anymore, which feels really unfair. So Anisha decides, of course, that she's going to investigate and find out who has framed her. And there are lots of people with a reason to, so they have to figure it out and prove their innocence. And will they manage to do it? Because Anisha really wants to take part in the science fair because the first prize is really great. So I was thinking about what makes a good mystery and what makes us want to keep turning the page. So of course in a mystery something has to happen, doesn't it, for the main character to actually have a mystery to solve. So in the first book we have a kidnapped groom and obviously a big wedding to try and save. And in the second book we have the sabotage of the science experiment and obviously Anisha's reputation, because everybody thinks that she did this thing and she absolutely didn't. So the stakes have got to be quite high. It's got to be something that really means something to the person investigating for it to be important enough for them to investigate. And then I think you've got to have clues, haven't you? Because those are the things that set the detective off onto the right path, or sometimes the wrong path, because we have things called red herrings and they can sometimes lead the detective off down a completely different path, and they realise that that suspect didn't do it at all. But that can actually add to the story and make it quite funny in places, I think. So hopefully that's what I've achieved with the series. And of course you've got to have the detective solve the mystery, and perhaps you solve it even before they do as you're reading along, which I think is always quite fun to do. So I thought I would read to you a little bit today from School's Cancelled, and I'm going to read from the chapter where the actual foam explosion happens. So at the point where we join the story, Anisha is just getting ready to try out the experiment. So they're just practicing after school on this particular day. So let's see what happens. Now for the bicarbonate of soda. We only have a small amount in a plastic tub, so I have to be careful not to waste or drop any. I'm just getting it out ready while we wait for Govey and Miss Bunsen, when there's a clattering clang and a loud bang outside the lab. Milo and I race into the corridor and turn left towards the noise. It's coming from inside the supplies room. I pull the handle down and the door swings open to reveal Miss Bunsen. We quickly pull her up from the pile of science supplies she's fallen into. Thankfully, she doesn't seem to be hurt. What happened? I ask. I don't know. I popped in here to get some supplies ready for tomorrow's classes on my way back from seeing Mr. Graft, but suddenly the door closed behind me and I couldn't get out. The handle on the inside has been broken for weeks, so you can't turn it. I usually leave the stopper there so it stays open, but it must have got knocked out of the way. I look behind the door and around on the floor, but there's no door stopper. Weird. Just then there's a beeping sound and it suddenly starts raining in our school corridor. I quickly realise it's the sprinklers, which are like little showers that come on if the fire alarm is triggered. Even stranger, I smell burnt toast. Who would be making toast now? Goodness me, it's all go today. We'd better follow procedure and get you two outside. Miss Bunsen starts to walk towards the exit. I start to say, we can't leave Govey, but then I see it. At first I think, that can't be what I think it is. But it keeps coming towards us and panic starts to bubble in my chest. Miss, I think you should turn around, I murmur. We've got time for games, Anisha. Come along. Actually, where is Govey? Is he in the lab still? No, he went to look for you, miss. But seriously, you need to turn around now. What is it, Anisha? Oh! Coming out of the lab at an alarming rate is a very large, very foamy puddle of bubbles. The sprinklers are on full blast, and so the puddle is rapidly getting bigger. I can just about see that inside the lab the floor is already flooded and there's foam and bubbles everywhere. I don't understand. How could this happen? Miss Bunsen tries to investigate, but the foam river is rising and she ends up with what looks like foam ankle boots over her feet. I grab Milo's arm and start to back away towards the exit. Govey comes running up then, out of breath and quite pink in the cheeks. Where have you been, Govey? I couldn't find Miss Bunsen and I accidentally walked in on a meeting and got told off, and then I needed the toilet. What's going on? What's going on is that somehow our volcano experiment seems to have exploded, and now the sprinklers have come on and there's a river of foam flooding the lab and travelling out into the corridor. I point frantically. Miss Bunsen takes charge. Right, children, no more hanging around. I need to get you out into the playground. It's health and safety. We can discuss the hows and whys once everyone's out. I imagine the fire brigade will be on their way now the alarm's going off, so they'll be able to tell us exactly what's happened. Come along. We wade along the corridor towards the exit, feet sloshing in the quickly rising foam flood. Voices echo as a few other teachers working late emerge from classrooms and offices, wondering what's going on. Just as I think it's not too bad, I spot a load of Petri dishes, pipettes, and what looks like a long line of floating blue rubber hands drifting on the foamy river down the hallway. As we reach the exit door, it suddenly flings open, and standing there looking mightily unhappy is Mr. Graft, the head teacher. And that's an extract from School's Cancelled. I hope you enjoy the books if you get the chance to read them, and happy writing if you're writing your own stories. Thanks, bye.